G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the news vlog. I have an update for a story that I covered last year because there's been a bit of action in terms of the police actually catching some of these culprits and making arrests. So this is related to a fire that occurred at the Burgatory restaurant in Caulfield here in Victoria. Now, Burgatory is a restaurant chain owned by a Palestinian individual called Hashtaya. And at the time of the fires in November, there was a lot of community discontent around the issues we were seeing in the Middle East. And of course, we've had these protests, pro-Palestinian protests, and members of the Israeli community also talking about the rise of anti-Semitism in general around Australia. So in that climate, we had this fire at the Burgatory restaurant chain, and a lot of people at the time, including, according to The Age, the owner himself, alluded to the fact that this was a hate crime, it was a targeted crime. A lot of the online speculation, of course, pointed fingers at the Jewish community or at Zionists, they were saying, that were responsible for this fire. So let's see this update and let's see what's actually transpired since, because it's been a few months since. So this is from The Age. Two arrested over Burgatory fire. Police confirm not a hate crime. Two men have been arrested over the alleged firebombing of a Burgatory restaurant in Caulfield late last year, with police also confirming that the alleged arson attack was not a hate crime, something the owner claimed at the time. Victoria police arrested a 27-year-old man in Carnegie and a 25-year-old man in Dallas on Wednesday morning, but the men have not been charged. The 25-year-old has been taken to hospital for treatment of injuries unrelated to his arrest. So there you can see an image of the man, supplied by Victoria police, I believe. The Burgatory store on the corner of Glen Huntly and Hawthorne Road was gutted by a fire in the early hours of November 10th. Owner Hasim Hashtaya alleged he had been the target of a hate crime after he had spoken out about the war in Gaza. And then it goes on to tell you the story about the rally that happened in support of this. So that rally I covered. I actually filmed some of the crazy scenes that happened during that time. I'll play a little bit of it now, just so you can get an idea of what was going on. And during that rally, the protest, a lot of it was led by these activist groups. There were a lot of socialist, Marxist style groups, Socialist Alternate, and the Victorian Socialists, who were part of these protests, came into the community in Caulfield, near this burger stop, went near a synagogue, and we had these clashes between the two communities, and a lot of frightened people there in Caulfield itself, which has a heavy Jewish population. So that all happened because of the speculation around these people being responsible for it. Well, with this reporting by Victoria Police and the statements they're putting out that it not being a hate crime, and just based on the appearance of these individuals, I won't go into too much detail about that. You can see for yourself. It's very unlikely that, especially if Victoria Police is saying specifically that it's not a hate crime, that it's related to a crime of prejudice, that is something that's based on race, based on sexual orientation, something like this, a crime based on a type of hate towards a particular individual or a group. So they've ruled that out. So either these people are known to the police, or there's a string of arsons that they're being arrested for. We don't know those full details yet, but Victoria Police have very clearly said that, and they've said that from the very onset. So I want to be clear about that. Even after the fire, police were not treating it as a hate crime. So they must have been doing an investigation for a while, and they've finally caught up with the people responsible. Now, of course, this is gonna, there's members of the community at the moment. There's a lot of posts I'm seeing online, particularly from Jewish members of the community, who are asking for an apology, because many people, media personalities, many people within the pro-Palestinian movement, religious leaders and so forth, alluded to the fact that, this is a hate crime and this is linked to hatred towards Palestinians, and, in a roundabout way, blame the Jewish community here in Australia. Well, I don't necessarily think that, based on the facts that we have available today, that you can make those claims. It's very clear that people acted during that time without having the full information. And I think this is a great demonstration to the fact that, crazy things happen sometimes, but it's not related to what we think it is. And, common sense needs to prevail in a lot of these situations. And when you get these, highly strung activists and stuff get involved, and start blaming people left, right, and center, and blaming Zionists and blaming all this kind of stuff. And this happens both ways. This can happen on either side of the fence. We've seen instances in the past where Muslim communities or Arab communities have been blamed for things that they have had nothing to do with them, and other communities as well. This happens, right? So this is a great example of that. So hopefully people can move on from this, and this investigation continues, because this still raises questions around how did this fire occur, why that burger shop. There is a string of arsons here in Victoria. If you live in Victoria, you'd hear about the arson attacks against tobacco stores. This is an ongoing issue that we have. There's also, crime, gang-related arson attacks against different crime families or businesses. Like, there's a lot of this stuff going on in Victoria. So it's hard to say exactly what it is. Hopefully the police make it a little bit more clearer in the coming days. The next story that I wanted to cover, guys, is there is a convoy happening in the US. That's right, a convoy to the border. Now, a couple of days ago, I covered the border issues in America, and you're seeing this invasion coming to the southern border. And, it's like, you don't need to get a green card, right, to go to the US. You just go somewhere in Latin America and you walk across the border. And these are just not, South Americans who are crossing the border because of some economic conditions or whatever like this. You're seeing people from, China, India, the Middle East, Africa, all crossing the southern border. This is like a free-for-all that's happening right now in the southern border. So there is a convoy to the border. They're saying that 700K people might turn up to protest at the border. There's people turning up there with their trucks. There is elements of people potentially taking weapons as well, and they're saying they're going there to do the job that the government, the federal government, is not doing. Now, you saw the Texas state government take their own unilateral action by fencing up that border with barbed wire, and then you had the Supreme Court step in and say, well, you can't do that, and then you saw Texas say, well, we're going to do that anyway. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and of course we have the 2024 elections coming up as well. But let me read a little bit about the convoy to the border. This could end up bad if, like some incident occurs. Of course, they're going to blame who? Who are they going to blame? Donald Trump. They're going to blame MAGA. They're going to do all this stuff. So there is that potential with these type of convoys. Let me just read the article. The Take Back Our Border convoy heading to Texas is expecting at least 700,000 people to turn out for their events on February 3rd. The organizers of the convoy left Virginia Monday and stopped overnight in Florida, where they rallied for more people to join their cause and organized to try and push the Biden administration into taking action on border issues. Pictures taken by the Post Tuesday morning show the painted vans and trucks that have joined the growing convoy in Jacksonville, Florida, as they prepared to head through Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, onto Comedo, Texas, near border security flashpoint Eagle Pass. Organizers Kim Yeater told the Post that the naysayers were just ordinary citizens, farmers, ranchers, retired police officers, not crazy conspiracy theories. It will be a peaceful assembly of Americans of all political classes and all ethnicities. Now, again, no doubt the intention of these people and these organizers themselves might be, good and noble, and yes, this might be actually required and needed for people to take action at the border and do these things. But, in America, we saw with the whole, how the Jan 6 thing occurred, right? You only need a couple of feds, maybe. I'm not, speculating here. You only need a couple of feds to join in, create some sort of crime that happens at this incident, some sort of thing that's reported by CNN as the end of democracy, and, Trump's MAGA insurgents are going to the border, and they're, ignoring the police officers there, and they're going to hunt down the illegal immigrants. You see where I'm going with this, right? On February 3rd, this could go either or any way. Let me know if you want to know more about this convoy. I might track it and bring more information as the days go on, because definitely, at least mainstream media in Australia won't show this massive border convoy that's headed to the southern border in the US. Now, I want to also pick up on the farmers' protesters that I covered that are happening in Paris and all throughout Europe. Of course, like clockwork, these farmers are being presented to you as either far-right themselves or influenced by the far right. This is an article that I got from France 24. It says, the protests follow similar actions in the European countries, including Germany and Poland, ahead of the European Parliament election in June, which the far right, from whom farmers represent a growing constituency, is seen making gains. As farmers step up pressure on governments across the EU, France 24 is joined by Renault. Let's forget about that. But the crux of this video is about the influence of far-right political movements on these farmers potentially. And you even heard me saying there that they're saying that a lot of the constituency of these groups come from farmers, the far-right. So based on this, where is this coming from? We see it all the time, right? Anytime you kind of protest against the government or any kind of measure like that, automatically they label you as the far right. Well, Michael Schellenberger has done a bit of investigation into this, and it turns out, to no one's surprise, that Soros, Facebook, and Omida money behind attacks on the German farmers, at least, right? So protesting German farmers are dangerously far right, say the media. but they're not. Most Germans share their concerns over energy prices and immigration, and now a new investigation finds government, Soros, and money and Facebook money behind the anti-farmer disinformation and attacks. I am not surprised by this, that groups like Soros and these Facebook fact-checkers and meta groups are coordinating once again to label farmers as far right as these protests intensify around the world. Because the last thing that these groups want, right, the last thing governments want especially, is farmers to get together in different parts of the world and put pressure on the governments. You're already seeing the farmers in EU having a bit of success because it's very hard for the police to attack farmers, right? It's very hard. It doesn't look good. Right, let's just say it like that. It doesn't look good. So they're going to find other ways to discredit these farmers. And the best way that the media's the governments have found for a long time is just to label people as extremists, terrorists, or far right is their umbrella term that they can express very freely. Now, there is going to be a farmers gathering actually in Australia in a week or so's time up in Canberra. But the thing with Australia is, I think, because we're so spread out everywhere, like, it's really hard for people to mobilize and get together in one central point, like where government happens, Canberra, right? It's almost like it's by design. But I might actually end up going to this gathering of farmers that's happening next week. So if I do go, I will bring you my vlog from there and a little bit of coverage of what's happening and see how many farmers turn up and what's happening there. The next story that I have for you guys is around Rip Curl. Yes, Rip Curl. We keep talking about .r.i.p curl. This company is completely they've lost it, right? The boycott is putting so much pressure on them that they've started deleting so many of their posts. They've started restricting commenting on almost all of their posts on social media. The upper management is in a free-for-all trying to figure out how to deal with this because they've made no statements at the time of me making this video. They've made no comments to media who have reached out to them. They are freaking out, right? And they only have themselves to blame for this whole push to erase women with transgender people, right? That's what they were trying to do. And now Rip Curl is paying a price for it. Now, interestingly, there's also videos now circulating around of people burning their Rip Curl attire. Make of that what you will, but I will play this video that I saw on the Herald Sun. He said, "Go woke, go broke, F you Rip Curl," and he is setting his Rip Curl attire on fire. Now, I've seen a few other videos like this and a few other people saying these kind of things, and they're saying they threw their clothes away or they donated it, things like this. So people are really sick and fed up with Rip Curl. And during my investigations into this company, actually, lo and behold, I found out they're actually involved in slavery as well. That's right. At one point, Rip Curl was involved in a slavery scandal. I mean, I'm not shocked anymore when I'm learning about this company, and they're getting a really bad rap as people start digging into this company's past and even their future with their involvement with Kathmandu. But this article from 7 years ago, served clothing label Rip Curl using slave labor to manufacture clothes in North Korea of all places. Iconic Australian surfwear giant Rip Curl has sold millions of dollars worth of clothes made in North Korea, where factory workers endured slave-like conditions. In a major embarrassment that raises serious questions about Rip Curl's garment sourcing practices, a Fairfax media investigation can reveal that workers at the Tegadoga clothing factory in the North Korean capital in Pyongyang, I'm really bad with my North Korean pronunciation, I'm so sorry, were contracted to make some of Rip Curl's 2015 winter range of clothing. Now, it could be a bit of a beat up, but they have made public apologies around this issue back then. So involved in slave labor, now they're trying to erase women, but they're hiding out, right? They're terrified. Like some of their social media posts, I posted on one of their Twitter posts where they had like 200 likes or something, right? And it was getting ratioed hardcore at that time by people. My comment had like 2,000 likes. I'm not gloating here. I'm just saying the type of anger that the community has towards Rip Curl now is up here on the Richter scale, and they are not up to the task of facing it. I don't know what's worse, the fact that they erased the women, or the fact that they can't now speak out and state their position or apologize or whatever it is. Say whatever you want to, whatever you believe in. Say those things. But the fact that they're hiding out, they're so cowardly. It's such a cowardly organization that they're so worried about their profits. They've tried to erase all mention of this stuff. Crazy stuff. And another story, guys, I have is an update. We saw the Captain Cook statue in St Kilda being destroyed during Australia Day times. There was also another statue in Edinburgh Gardens nearby, in the city as well, that was destroyed. And here's an image of it. Now, this particular council, I believe it's the city of Yarra, who is responsible for this monument. It will not be replaced, most likely. So, a monument of Australian history, for instance, or recognizing history in a certain way, destroyed. And the woke councillors at the Yarra City Council, who is by far one of the most woke councils, they don't even fly the Australian flag. That's how woke they are. They will most likely not replace this, and they said what for. That's literally that they've said what for. So I just want to give you an update on that. That's what's happening with that. And I probably won't be talking about Taylor Swift anymore. That's right. I've been talking about Taylor Swift the last couple of episodes, but now the fact checkers are onto it, right? And I'm saying the fact checkers in a laughing manner, because CNN and all these organizations like New York Times, who was beating up this whole Taylor Swift story to begin with by saying how Taylor Swift can be an asset in the Biden campaign against Trump, and talking about how much young voters she could flip over to the Biden campaign, to the Democrats, have now all of a sudden said that because people like myself, right, and others in the conservative space that look at these kind of stories and try to call out these things, now all of a sudden it's debunking far-right conspiracies targeting Taylor Swift. It says far-right conspiracies, Taylor Swift, NFL Democrats working together to rig the Super Bowl, help Biden. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about Taylor Swift anymore, because now if you talk about Taylor Swift, they will say that you're far-right conspiracy theorist, and who knows, you might get some type of fact check strike against you on these platforms. Speaking of platforms, guys, if you're enjoying my content, you can follow along on YouTube. On this channel, you can hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the notification bell if you want to get the notifications. Apparently it helps. Also on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, and Odyssey, you'll find me there as well, at The Real Rukshan. I also have a website, www.realrukshan.com. If you don't want to go to any of those platforms, all my work is there as well. Thanks, guys. See you next time.